Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. I can't believe they're giving us manga in this format. It's insane. And it's still ongoing. Hey now, all you minties, Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions, and join me today for my overview of the Gunsmith Cats Omnibus Volume 1 from Dark Horse Comics. So let's go ahead and get started. And welcome back, everybody. Before going any further, a big thank you to the folks at Dark Horse for sending us a copy of this omnibus. This book is out in the direct market and book market, and it is their latest omnibus collections. They've done it for a few years now with books like Oh My Goddess. As a matter of fact, there was a collection of Gunsmith Cats already that had the original trade paperbacks, and they turned them into the tankobon. So the printed right to left format with the revised editions. These books originally came out in single issue format, and that brings back memories. And this is the one that was, oh my gosh, I think it's well over 15 years ago. But kind of give an idea of just how much bigger the new edition is. Even though this book is thicker, believe it or not, this new edition, this Omnibus Book 1, actually has more pages than this book right here. The Omnibus edition has over 600 pages. It has 608 pages to be exact, while the revised edition has 464 pages, and that is due to the paper, the type of paper that they're using, which I always say makes a big difference. And we'll do a comparison internally here in a little bit. This one here, I believe, was $16.95 for mature readers, 18 plus up there. This one does have a sticker, the parental advisory. This comes wrapped in plastic originally, and this one is $29.99. But again, 608 pages. So we'll do a comparison in a little bit, but let's shift the focus back to this. So here's our main character, Raleigh Vincent, Kenichi Sonoda, Gunsmith Cats, Omnibus Book 1. You can peel that sticker off. The spine of the book with that same Omnibus Book 1 down there covering some of the artwork here, which I kind of wish they had just done like a small volume in the Dark Horse logo down there. And then the back of the book, Gunsmith Cats, lock and load and hit the road. So this kind of gives you an idea as to what the book is about with a little bit of the pitch here and what kind of awards it won. Again, $29.99 and my dream car right there, that Shelby GT. All right, we're going to open this omnibus up. We're going to talk about the stories found in here, check out the artwork, and look at all the extras. All right. One of the things I wanted to note was the glossy finish to the actual logo here in Kenichi Sonoda and Raleigh in Book 1. And of course everything else printed in this like flat finish to it. But I didn't want to point that out. So let's go ahead and crack this book open. So Gunsmith Cats Omnibus Volume 1. We do have your table of contents right here where it's collected, or what chapter it is and what page it's on. And then we have some color pictures here, including some from the original tankobons and trade paperbacks, with Chapter 1, Feeding Trouble. So this collects a total of 3 different tankobon. It collects the Bonnie and Clyde story, it collects Misfire, and it collects The Return of Grey, which in America, they were published originally in a single issue format because that's the way that I got them. I love this series ever since Dark Horse and Studio Proteus and Dark Horse had been printing them in single issue format. They were originally printed in the traditional American left to right format, but now since they released the revised edition, they went back to the right to left format. And the story is pretty simple. By the way, this one has 608 pages, and the book retails for $29.99. The story of Gunsmith Cats is pretty simple. You have 2 characters. You have the character of Raleigh Vincent right here, who's a 19-year-old gun nut, loves putting guns together and loves muscle cars. That's where the GT500, oh my gosh, that is my dream car, color and everything. So she's the gun expert, and she owns the Gunsmith Cats, which is a place that, of course, modifies guns. You can order guns, you can get your guns repaired. And then there is Minnie-May. The character of Minnie-May is... How do I describe Minnie-May Hopkins? She is the one character that I think a lot of people have issues with because she used to be a child prostitute. And as of the beginning of the manga, I believe she's 17 years old, if I'm not mistaken. So this does have mature themes. There's a parental advisory. There's some sexual content in here. Mainly due to the violence, though. And the sexual content is mainly talked about. There's a couple of parts in this book right here that they do show it, but it's not like... gratuitous or anything like that. But she is the explosives expert. So you have Raleigh, who's an expert combat shooter, and then May, who knows the inner workings of explosives. Now, I said those are the two main characters, but they also have a variety of other friends or supporting cast. Like you have Becky Farah, who is kind of like their oracle. She's the one that sends them on missions, because they also happen to be bounty hunters. So not only do they have a gunsmith shop, they are actual bounty hunters. And the best, and one of my favorite things about this, is that it takes place in Chicago, Illinois. So I love when mangaka take you outside of their comfort zone and put you in a world that they're not very familiar with. Now, reading this, holy crap, you can tell that Sonoda is a huge fan of guns. Like the explanation, the art, and the recoil, and just everything, and the modification that comes with a lot of these guns. Like, you would have to be somebody that knows the stuff. Like I think one of the favorite guns that they use here is the Beretta 9mm, and a little bit about explosives, but also muscle cars of a particular era. The streets, the background, it really does feel like it's in America. And I love this book because of that. Like, because I think he does such an amazing job just capturing the essence of what it's like to be in Chicago, Illinois, and what it's like to be two bounty hunters. The story is simple, right? Like I mentioned, it's about two bounty hunters that own a gunsmith store, and they have different jobs. And the first 3 volumes here, the first one is about this character of Bonnie, who ends up losing some of her body parts because of Raleigh and May. She ends up losing a hand, she ends up losing her feet, but she accommodates with guns. Like, she has this, let me just show you, whenever she has this other meeting with this mob boss in Chicago, that she's made her missing limb into a gun, a working gun. That's ridiculously awesome. One of my favorite scenes is right here. There's a lot of chase scenes, right? Like, if you're a fan of Bullet, if you're a fan of those 70s movies, I think people have compared it to, like, the Blues Brothers because of the cars chase scenes. I can kind of see that. But this is a ridiculous, amazing scene where this little girl's about to get hit by Raleigh, who's driving this car. So what she does is open the door, throws her in the car, and then May throws her out on the other side, which is, I'm sure, impossible, unless Mythbusters is trying to do it. And it's just, it works. It works in a cinematic kind of way. I love it. It's so badass. And the gun scenes here are amazing. There's creepy characters that show up. Yeah, but so the first story is about this brother and sister team named Bonnie and Clyde. That's who shows up in the very first book. The second story is about this explosives expert who comes back into the life of Minnie-May. And I think this is one of the characters they have a lot of issues with because of her age. This guy's well into his 30s, and they've had a relationship in the past. So you can see why people... And I respect people's opinion. It's a character that was her mentor, if you will, when it comes to explosives. Everything that she learned from this guy. And his name is Kentucky. Actually, his name is Ken Takizawa, but people call him Kentucky because, well, we're in America, right? You gotta call him Kentucky. But this really sets up a new character too, and that is the character of Misty, who is this thief. And this is where we're introduced to her. And we're also introduced to this guy named Bean Bandit. Now, the cool thing about this, God, there's so much amazing mythology about this series, is that Sonoda came from the world of animation. He had worked at, of course, Bubblegum Crisis. And if you watch Bubblegum Crisis and you know the character of Pris, and you're looking at the character of Misty, you can see, like, she looks like Pris. She may even pass as, like, Pris's younger sister. But in the world of animation, there was a OVA called Riding Bean. And he wanted to take the character of Bean from that story, and the blonde that looks like Rally Van. Actually, her name was Rally. And put it in manga form, but because of licensing issues, he couldn't. So he kind of developed his own thing. And that's where the character of Bean Bandit later on appears through here. So a lot of these characters may be familiar to you because of the Riding Bean anime, but also there was a Gunsmith Cats OVA, and maybe that's where you're familiar with these characters. This is the character of Misty, who is, at first starts off as an antagonist, like she is the locksmith thief, and then she becomes friends with both Minnie-May and the character of Rally, and of course Becky, who plays a bigger part through here. She is the knives expert of the group, who will end up getting kidnapped quite often. This is the character of Gray right here, who is introduced through here as the top man of this criminal syndicate, and becomes the villain of not just the second story, but the one I talked about, The Return of Gray. And man, people lose appendages throughout this book all the time. But that is the basic premise of this. Car chases like Bullet or The French Connection. Amazing gunfight scenes here. Like Last Man Standing. It gets ridiculous. Not as ridiculous as like bullet dodging like in The Matrix or Wanted, but realistically ridiculous type of stories in here. Almost like a Quentin Tarantino movie. And this, as I mentioned a little bit earlier when I showed you, has been released before in this revised edition format, but the story here, or the artwork in here, is bigger. So what I want to do now is do a quick comparison. Alright, we got the revised edition over here, and we have the Omnibus Book 1. Of course, I talked about the size, how much slimmer it is. The slimness is because of the paper stock. So for the color pages, they're using this thick, glossy paper stock, which is not found here. And then for the black and white pages that you're going to find throughout the book, it's the same paper stock they use for their omnibus editions, like Oh My God is. So it's a thicker matte paper stock, not as fancy as you're going to find in the pages of like the Berserk Deluxe edition, but still thicker than, or I'm sorry, still fancier than the newsprint type of paper, which is thick, but you can also see a lot of the bleed through happening here. Now, when the trade paperbacks came out, Studio Proteus decided with Kenichi Sonoda to remove a couple of scenes from the books. So I know the original single issues had the sexual content. It was a page, and then the blood of another page that they removed for trade paperbacks. But since this edition and this one, they have been restored. So if you're somebody that has to have everything collected the way that the mangaka envisioned it, they are restored again in this version right here. Now, as far as the restoration, I do want to quickly compare the size, because the translation, they're just using the exact same translation as this version over here on the left-hand side. The sound effects are translated within the panels, so you can see here just how, I want to say this wasn't always yellow. I want to say it had like a white finish to it. I think it's just happened recently where it's just been yellowing for some reason. Could be the paper stock they're using. So this kind of gives you an idea just how much bigger the frames are. Compared to this tankobon right here. And again, sound effects translated within, done in the right to left format. In the back, this does collect more than this, like I mentioned earlier. This book right here has a total of 608 pages. So in the very back, you have an interview here with Kenichi Sonoda, the creator. A sketch gallery. Oh my gosh, what I would love to own a sketch of Rally. She's one of my favorite characters. Interesting enough, I've had a discussion with one of my friends from Japan who called her Larry Vincent. And I thought, wait, oh, because of her name, how they would pronounce it. Yeah, that's interesting. So I'm curious how you pronounce it. Bean Bandit and Becky. And then, of course, a little bit of previews to Volume 2. Hey, speaking of writing, Bean. Oh, and Bubblegum Crisis and Crash. And, of course, he did the character designs on Otako no Video, which was a Gainax film. Other manga right here. And then, of course, You're Reading the Wrong Way. I didn't even know there was a panty stalking manga available. But if you've never read it, oh my gosh, you are in for a treat. Lots of hijinks, action, badassness, badass women with guns, and creepy villains. We haven't even met Goldie yet, who is one of the creepiest villains in all of manga, I think. But that is it. And that, as they say. Oh, sorry, just in case, but rest assured, it is glued binding, right? It is glued binding because we are looking at a paperback. Now, that, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing this omnibus edition, don't forget to check out our sponsors.
If you're in Europe and you're interested in buying these books, definitely check out Walt's Comic Shop in Berlin, Germany. They have the cheapest pre-order prices, flat shipping rate of €12 for all EU countries, emails answered within 24 hours, waltscomicshop.com, and you can use the code nearmintcondition at checkout and get free shipping for all EU countries with your first order over €40. That's Walt's Comic Shop, your reliable source for omnis and premium collected editions in Europe. Ding!
BD Cosmos, the Canadian leader in graphic novels. They have a physical storefront in Montreal, Quebec, and their website, bdcosmos.com, offers 25% off your order of over $99 or more, and free shipping everywhere in Canada for every order of $250 or more.
Their shipping care is exceptional. Your books will stay cozy through the rough Canadian weather and arrive to you in near mint condition.
After checkout, let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way, and you'll be added to the monthly $25 gift card raffle. Entries are valid for new and returning customers.
Don't be afraid to call or email them. Ask them questions. Their staff is always happy to help guide you towards the right purchase. Visit their website, bdcosmos.com, for more. BD Cosmos, with rewards and raffles taking care of customers in Canada. Eh?
And that was the content, the page count, and build, and then, of course, the comparison to the previous releases from Dark Horse. If you have any questions, leave those down below. Don't forget to smash that like button on the way out. What other series from Dark Horse do you want them to release in omnibus format or in deluxe hardcover edition? What do you think deserves it, if, of course, the right holders let them? Any questions, leave them down below. Don't forget to smash that like button on the way out. Check us out on Patreon and Spreadshop. Amazing ways to support the channel. Everyone, stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.